Do you know if LeBron and AD are going to play in the first preseason game on Friday?
We haven't made that decision yet. I would say it's probably unlikely that they'll play.
All right, over to Kyle. Kyle,
Hey, great. New mechanic. Frank, sort of related to that, have Quinn and Alfonso joined your group, and how many of your guys do you think you'll have available to play in the first preseason game?
That's tough to say where we're going to be at on Friday, but we've had the same group today that we had for the first 2 days of practice. And, we'll have to see where everything's at on Friday in terms of knowing how many players we're going to have.
Dan Wakey, please.
Hey, Frank. You've mentioned sort of the importance of off-season pickup games a couple times, and obviously a lot of your guys haven't had many for a lot of reasons. Does that make you want to do more live work here in training camp than maybe you normally would, or like how do you try to crack that problem, or is that just kind of is what it is?
No, it makes me want to do less live work actually, just out of concern for making sure that our players are not put in a situation where they could be vulnerable to injury. If your body's not used to playing live basketball like you typically would be building up to a normal training camp, I think you have to take it slower, do more drill work, try to put your system in through drill work as much as possible, and then introduce the live action sort of at a slower pace to get their bodies used to contact again.
Have you had those guys? How much actual sort of live basketball have you guys done so far?
Well, we haven't gone long in length of practice because of being short on bodies, both with practice bodies and certain guys being out. So the duration of practice hasn't really been nearly as long as it typically would be in a training camp. And what I try to do the first 3 days is have sort of a build-up where the first practice would be 25% live work, 75% drill work. Second practice, 50-50. Today, about 75% live work, 25% drill work. And just try to build it up each of the 3 days with an off day tomorrow. And like I said, the practices have not really gone longer than an hour 15 minutes, which is far shorter than they typically would be in a training camp.
Okay, let's go to Dave McMenamin.
Frank, you guys brought in Montrez and Mark and said goodbye to Dwight and JaVale. And while they both play centers, they play center in a different way, obviously. But do you think they can still provide the same regular season type of role that those guys did last year in terms of limiting the amount of minutes that Anthony would play at that position during the regular season?
For sure, they can play at least the roles that JaVale and Dwight did from a minute standpoint, maybe more. I think that's something that will just play out over the course of the season. But we still would like to have a blend of AD playing at the 4 and as well as playing at the 5, which is obviously something, our ability to shift back and forth in the playoffs last year was pivotal and important to us winning the championship. And something that we'll balance again this season.
Mike Trudell, please.
Hey, Frank, I wanted to ask you more of a big picture question about LeBron and AD, just in light of the extensions, how your relationship developed and evolved from when you took over to winning the championship, and if you could just touch on that, what went for you.
Since winning the championship, or since I began?
From when you took the job through winning the championship and today.
Yeah, well, I really didn't know either one of them except having met them. I had met Anthony once or twice. I had known LeBron from obviously competing in the playoffs, coaching him in the All-Star game. So there was a little bit of relationship there, but really not much on either end. And I think, we hit the ground running with being on the same page with our plan and the culture that we wanted to set, and earned a lot of trust between each other throughout the course of the season. And obviously, when you accomplish something like we did in terms of winning a championship, I think that strengthens any relationship, and puts us in a space where no one will ever take that away from us. We won a championship together, and I think there's a bond that's created there that lasts forever, whichever directions we go going forward. I would say the same thing with the players that were on last year's team and are not here now. But a strong bond is definitely created, and since then, I like to give our guys space in the off season, and but it's been fun since we got back in the building and started getting back to work, and talked about some of the things that worked with us or for us last year, teaching the new guys some of the things, and the three of us just being on the same page with all that stuff has been a fun thing to be a part of to start this season.
Next, let's go to Brad Turner.
Hello, Frank.
What's up, Brad?
Hey, how much more do you rely on the medical staff and the trainers this season as compared to previous seasons, considering how the season's going so far?
We always rely on them, especially this time of year, but probably more now because of the situation we're in with the shorter off season, COVID protocols disallowing us from playing pickup games. So, there's very detailed and regular conversations about how each of our guys are doing, the pace with which we're building them up to live activity. So. I would say probably more, but we always rely on them, for this type of thing.
All right, Melissa Rowland, please.
Hey Frank, considering you're not playing in a bubble and the numbers around COVID are spiking right now, I'm wondering how much pressure does that put on not only, monitoring yourself and what you choose to do, but also your wife and your kids and making sure that they stay safe and making the right choices? Like, what kind of pressure does that put on families?
Well, it does. They understand the importance. Myself, all of our players, everyone that's participating here, has to have the mindset to be extra careful with the things we choose to do away from our building. The more time we can just spend at home and here, the better, and minimize the other things that you have to do. Obviously, people are still living lives, but we're trying to just stay as safe as possible, and I think that applies to the families as well. I know my wife and my daughters are mindful of minimizing the situations they put themselves in, and trying to be as risk-free as possible. They don't want to put me in position to miss games. And at the same time, I want them to stay safe, but to still try to carry on as much of a normal life as you can. While staying risk-free.
Okay, we have time for two more. Let's go to Mike Bresnahan. Mike, there you go.
Hey Frank, preseason's gonna be so much different this year as opposed to pretty much every other year you've coached in the league. What do you want to get from these 4 games here, and how much will they go towards determining who starts on opening night and who's higher up in the rotation off the bench and that sort of thing?
They'll play a role. I mean, I always like to, see the combinations of players play out in preseason before we commit to lineups and whatnot. Those games will play a factor, but I really don't look at it, with this year's team as, certain guys have to win a job or anything like that. Like we have good players that have a proven track record of what they're able to do on the floor, and it's really going to be about how I feel like we can pair certain lineups, certain guys up, certain combinations to win as many games as we can. So, the preseason games will be a factor in that. But I've got a good feel for for how our guys or what our guys are capable of.
Okay, last question. Let's go to Alan Sleeman.
Hey, Coach. Just get your thoughts as you obviously see what the lineup is, see how much talent on this team. Do you start looking down the road, saying 2-3 months from right now or from now, of just what that potential can be, what some of those rotations can be? Are you spending time thinking about down the road, or are you just primarily focused on just kind of getting that day-to-day where we are?
Yeah, I really have been in the moment. As you're asking me this today, my mindset is really on, how can we manage today's practice, to be enough to get them ready for games without overdoing it and making them vulnerable to injury. And, so my mind has really been on that, and then teaching our system to the new guys, and reminding our returning guys of the habits that won for us last year. And haven't really thought too far ahead about what we're going to look like, 2-3 months into the season or going into the playoffs. I just want to manage the marathon.